500 years ago, the world bid farewell to one of the greatest personalities of all time, Leonardo da Vinci. To celebrate this great man, the Vatican Museums prepared a 3-month-long exhibition, which is now being hosted in the colonnade of St. Peter's Square. Vatican Museums Director Barbara Iatta is curator of the exhibition.
This is San Jerome in the Wilderness, made by Leonardo da Vinci, and is the only painting in the Vatican collections, and is the only painting in Rome made by Leonardo. It's almost very few paintings, 3, 4, 5 paintings that the critics of Leonardo never disagree on the authenticity.
Observing the painting, there's no doubt that it belongs to Leonardo, who put all of himself into the painting of this canvas, leaving his imprint on history.
There's not much about in terms of documents of this painting, but no doubt that the technique is Leonardo's technique, and the fact that it's an unfinished paintings led us to understand very well, and all the scholars use it as a model of how he painted, how he designed and painted his paintings. You can see, because it's unfinished, you can see from the preparatory drawing of the painting up to the finishing touches. Touches made with the brushes, but also with the hands. So the finger painting used by Leonardo, we can incredibly see with the thumb impressions of Leonardo da Vinci are in several parts of the painting. So this is also the incredible aspect of this strong, not beautiful, beautiful in a different sense, but it's a strong and very intense painting.
The exhibition not only celebrates a great artist, but it also offers the opportunity to learn more about the work and the man behind it.
The Vatican collections, in the papal collections, in 19th century, in mid-19th century, during the pontificate of Pius IX, after having an incredible history of different owners during the centuries.
The first written records of the work appear only very recently, just 200 years ago, when it was owned by the painter and collector Angelica Kaufmann. After that, the painting was lost. Napoleon's uncle, Joseph Fesch, managed to find it again, but in the meantime, the painting had been cut into 2 parts. The part with the depiction of the face of St. Jerome had been repurposed as the base of a cobbler's stool, while the second part was found at a junkyard on the door of a closet. Cardinal Fesch put the 2 pieces back together, and eventually Pope Pius IX acquired the painting and dedicated a special room at the Vatican Painting Gallery to it. Right next to the hall, dedicated to another great artist that worked in Rome, Raphael. By placing the works of these legends next to each other, the Pope paid tribute to 2 great artists who lived and worked simultaneously in the Eternal City. As this book testifies, Leonardo was in Rome in the year 1513.
It's amazing because it's more or less the same years in which they live together in Rome. They live in the same city, in the same and very narrow one to the other. Bramante, the great architect, Michelangelo, no adjective to describe him, and the Divin Pittore Raphael, that was painting by that time the Raphael rooms, and then Leonardo, that was working for the Pope for the military fortification of the Vatican. So he was a genius. He was a genius in many aspects. He was an incredible man. And in this exhibition, we want also to focus on his coming to Rome. He had a Roman time. He lived in the Vatican City itself. He lived, in fact, where the Vatican museums are today, on the top of the Belvedere hill.
From March the 22nd to June the 22nd, pilgrims and visitors to Rome have a unique opportunity to admire Leonardo's only masterpiece in Rome, celebrating together with the whole world Leonardo da Vinci's cultural legacy of 500 years and counting. After the break, discover the Holy See's appeal at the UN in Geneva to adopt an economy of inclusion.
Earlier this month, at the UN Geneva, the Intergovernmental Group of Experts on E-commerce and the Digital Economy met for the third time since 2017. The Holy See delegation reminded that e-commerce presented unique possibilities, but also many inequalities.
The e-commerce divide is significant. While 60 to 80% of people in many developed countries already shop online, the equivalent share in most of the world's countries is below 3%.
In the multi-trillion dollars business of the world, the developing countries and the least developed countries occupy more or less 3%. So when we speak here about, let's say, concerns of the Catholic Church in the field of e-commerce, we are practically speaking, first of all, of those 3%.
Assessing the wider use and impact of new technologies, particularly with respect to the 2030 development agenda, is a complex, very technical and financial markets and economy related subject.
Why is the Catholic Church, the Holy See, interested in that?
For aspiration that we always have, because it's a gospel, inspiration of the gospel, no? Aspiration that the differences, if they exist and if they should exist, should be smaller and smaller. But what is the reality? That the gap is widening every day. So it means a major concern. This is why we are so strongly and according to our possibilities involved in these conversations.
The digital revolution has created opportunities for development that were once thought impossible. Trade is increasingly becoming digitalized, and cross-border data flows are becoming more important for international transactions.
Does this not mean, even if we have borders or build borders, that today's reality is that we are living in a world without borders?
Yes, no borders, but unfortunately too many borders still. And social justice and the openness and sharing with the others certainly require being more understandable to this radical situation of radical difficulties and a relatively slow development pace. Or if you ask what countries are making quick progress today, the answer is not many, almost no. 2 or 3, mostly in Asia, some in Africa, but very little. So it means not an easy thing, and the Catholic Church is certainly interested to contribute and to stay behind this subject as much as possible.
Since December 2014, the European country of Estonia allows e-residency, a program for non-Estonians to access Estonian services such as company formation, banking, payment processing and taxation. However, e-residency is not related to citizenship and does not give the right to physically enter or reside in Estonia. The country welcomed their digital nation's first head of state, His Holiness Pope Francis, who received his personal e-residency card. Estonia now has e-residents across 157 countries. An example of what citizenship might look like in a post-national world?
So we have to know that the occasions given by e-commerce should be shared as soon as possible with everybody, with as many as possible, and knowing that is one of the the strongest instruments to promote human development. This is why we are continuing, let's say, and making statements and participating in all these organizations.
The Holy See expressed their hope that e-commerce, where selfishness and the abuse of power have an enormous potential to harm the community, will shift to a model of economy of inclusion. According to Pope Francis, the Church, mother and teacher must guide to achieve this model. It is important that ethics once again play its due part in the world of finance and that markets serve the interests of peoples and the common good of humanity.
The Holy See isn't just at the forefront of the UN in Geneva in defending human rights, it's also leading the field of children's health care. The Vatican's Bambin Gesù hospital has worldwide recognition, and this year it's celebrating its 150th anniversary of foundation. Its president, Mariella Enoc, told us of the past, present, and future of the Vatican's Pediatric Hospital.
The hospital was born from a work of charity because there were no pediatric hospitals, meaning where children could be admitted independently of adults, and therefore the Savati family thought of doing this small initial work, with 4 rooms in Via della Zaccoletti, where, however, some girls were admitted who already had, at that time, a very rare form of tuberculosis, which was not treated, were instead treated there. Then the hospital was donated to the Pope. So in Rome, it is said that the child Jesus is the hospital of the Pope. In reality, it was donated to the Pope. And in the following years, as the hospital grew to its present size, so it is at this time the largest European children's hospital, has a very important scientific recognition, so in recent years have always led it towards development, growth, but without ever losing its roots and without ever losing the sensitivity to people, children, and their families that are the center of attention of the hospital.
Verso le persone, verso I bambini e le loro famiglie che sono il centro dell'attenzione dell'ospedale.
What are now the main challenges for the future?
Le sfide per il futuro sono quelle di...
The challenges for the future are to continue to provide the best possible service to children, investing a lot, as we are doing in scientific research. Because first of all, the family, a child, wants to be cured, and then you must not abandon this struggle to be able to cure more and more, discovering new diseases. To build the new center, for us, it will be the Institute of Tumors and Transplants, because it will be moving a few people from the Gianicolo, which is super crowded, to dedicate a very special place for those patients instead. We are expanding Palidoro, which will be a large rehabilitation center, as it already is. We will soon inaugurate Villa Lucia, which is a center for palliative care, the first center in central Italy. Here, let's say that these are the prospects that the hospital has in front of it in the coming years.
Diciamo che queste sono le prospettive che l'ospedale ha di fronte nei prossimi anni.
The hospital has a healthcare mission, but it also has its roots in the gospel. How does the hospital live its spirituality?
Direi che le cose non hanno nessuna contrapposizione.
I would say that things do not have any opposition, because in any case, Jesus cared for the sick. There is in the gospel itself the sign of care, of attention, and how one does the care, rather. So certainly, there is great attention to the relationship. So be very close to families, because when you care for a child, you must always remember that you care for the whole family, including healthy siblings. give great attention to the relationship between people, really, even a little empathy, and always be adherent. Of course, even to those who are the teachings of the gospel. We, for example, also the incurable children, defined at this time as incurable, are treated by the hospital. That is to say, this care also for those who, according to science, at this time, have no possibility of recovery, and their parents want to be close to them. They want to continue this struggle, and we are by their side to continue.
The hospital has also opened a health center in Bangui in the Central African Republic.
Beh, questa è una storia un po' diversa, nel senso che il Papa è andato a aprire la prima porta santa a Bangui.
In the sense that the Pope went to open the first holy door in Bangui. He visited in a very short time this pediatric center, a pediatric hospital. Of course, the conditions were disastrous, and when he returned, he asked me to go and put this hospital back in place. He also gave me the resources, part of the economic resources to do so. And so we began this adventure of placing this hospital in the existing part, while making a new part for malnourished children who were under canvas tents. The hospital is government-owned. It remains government-owned. There is nothing to identify it with the Pope. That is, in the sense that the Pope wanted this work to be done. But it was not in some measure appropriate indeed. We inaugurated it on the 2nd of March, so I am very happy because in 2 years we will have done all this work.
Are there any other similar projects in other countries?
No, gli altri progetti sono tutti di formazione.
No, the other projects are training projects. We do training for doctors. We do it in Syria, we do it in Jordan. We do it in Cambodia. That's it. Instead, in countries as diverse as China, we have a training project at this time. We have 5-6 Chinese doctors. So it is a training in many countries where we are being asked. Now I'm going to Kazakhstan. In May, I'm going to South Korea. Because the hospital in Seoul is a Catholic hospital, and it has asked us to do together a training project for doctors from North Korea. But the hospital in Bangui remains unique, because it is a sign of the Pope. But we don't build hospitals. We are not an NGO at all. So we keep our task, to know how to do what we have to do. And we are also doing this in the reception of children who cannot be treated in their own countries.
President, thank you so much. Stay with us. In a few moments, for the first time in 300 years, we'll unveil for you the Holy Stairs in Rome. This largely unnoticed building at the right side of the Basilica of St. John Lateran holds one of the most important relics in all of Christianity, the Holy Stairs. Christian tradition holds that Jesus Christ climbed them before his crucifixion. They led to the Praetorium of Pontius Pilate in Jerusalem. A few days before Easter, the stairs were uncovered for the first time in 300 years. Now the bare marble stairs are available for pilgrims to climb, uniting their sufferings with the sufferings of Christ.
For
me, the staircase is like a way for the spiritual purification through the sufferings.
So I was pretty nervous first coming in, but kneeling down and walking up, or kneeling up all the way, it was not very comfortable, but you just think about what Jesus went through going up those steps and enduring much more pain. So it was a very powerful moment, and just it was a big part of history that we get to kind of be a part of again.
Putting yourself in that position, it's really like putting yourself in someone else's shoes to another level, I guess, like going through that experience the same way.
Passionist fathers are in charge of the shrine. They're the first witnesses to the importance of the relic for pilgrims.
It is a stairway that I personally, as vice rector, supervise. And because I'm here from the morning to the evening, I have also heard the testimonies of people who have had miracles. A couple who couldn't have children entrusted themselves to the Lord. And the most beautiful thing is that now every year they come from India with their 2 children and go up the stairs on their knees with their children in their arms.
The complex has been undergoing restoration for almost 30 years, and the renewal of the wooden planks over the stairs was the final step. The head of the restoration team, Paolo Violini, was the first to witness the original state of the stairs.
Sì, è stata una sorpresa per tutti noi vedere lo stato di conservazione di questi gradini.
It was a surprise for all of us to see the state of conservation of these steps with the central, almost like canal, that digs a rather deep groove to the point that some of them are rubbed off all the way to its limit of thickness. And going forward, with the rediscovery of the steps, we realized that it is nothing more than the sign of the wear and tear made by the pilgrims who went up on their knees. And the central groove was caused by the toe of the shoe on the lower step, which served to give you the push to climb the next step.
Sul gradino più basso serviva per darsi la spinta e salire sul gradino successivo.
According to tradition, the stairs were brought to Rome by Saint Helena in the 4th century, but there's no historical account of the authenticity of the stairs. There's hope that the restoration works will shed more light on this.
Certezze di questo genere è difficile darle in questa situazione.
It is difficult to give certainties of this kind, but we analyzed the situation, every single step to determine the type of marble and to classify the differences. But what can already be seen by the eye, which other experts have noted as well, that these marbles are grouped into several groups and they're not completely homogeneous. But all the marble comes from Greece or Asia Minor.
Sono tutti marmi che provengono dalla Grecia o dall'Asia Minore.
After the restoration of the ancient papal chapel of the Sancta Sanctorum, in 2000 a project was started to restore all the frescoes and decorations made in the rooms that Sixtus V built between 1588 and 1590, starting with the chapel of San Silvestro.
Patrons of the arts in the Vatican Museum stepped in 2012, and they adopted this project. It was necessary to have another $3 million, which is a very large sum for the Passionist Fathers who are the guardians of the sanctuary. So we have really been working hard since 2012. We're almost at the end of the project. 9 restorers were on time. And we hope for Easter 2020 to finish everything.
The stairs are going to remain in their original form throughout the whole period of Easter until Pentecost, when they'll be covered again to protect the marble that's been worn down from the friction of millions of pilgrims' knees.